Thank you for sitting down with us.
Of course.
What time did you come to work today?
9:20.
Is that when you normally arrive, would you say?
Well, it depends on what day you're in question.
Last week, any idea what time you typically arrived?
Not really. 9:30, 10, I don't know.
And then you stay usually till when?
Until my docket is completed.
Are there any guidelines that speak to when judges should start their day and how long they should be there?
Well, not necessarily. What is required, and I guess it's like any other job, court hours are from 8:30 to 4 o'clock. There are judges that come in as early as 8:30 and they leave when their docket is done, which is typically 11 or 12. There are judges that may come in late like myself, maybe 9:30, 10 o'clock, stay, get our docket done, and stay for the rest of the day. There is no policy in the Third Circuit Court that allows for you to take a half a day. I've had my judicial assistant to check with the Chief Judge Colombo. He's working with IT to do that right now. There is no mechanism. So therefore, if a person decides after their docket is completed that they're going to leave for whatever the reason, there's no way to say, I want to take a half a day. Either you have to lie and say you're there all day, or say you weren't there any part of the day. So that's what's required. So that's what you have. Not only do you have that in Third Circuit, but you have that everywhere. The number one concern for any judge is docket efficiency, i.e. doing their docket, getting it done, and making sure that when they leave at that time, that day, that docket is properly completed.
So in any given week, how many hours would you say you're spending in court?
Oh my goodness, it depends. Last week I was in a murder trial, and what normally happens is that you can judge a case by the number of transcripts that you do, get the pages that you do. The average case, if you start at 9, you finish about 4, it's about 200 pages. I do between 250 and 275 pages a day. It's something that the prosecutors always say, you know, when you're down in Judge Evans, you're going to run through it and you're going to get it done efficiently and very quickly. I normally do 5 to 6 witnesses a day, which is unheard of. As a matter of fact, I got through Bob Bashir in 3 weeks. That was 79 witnesses. So as far as the efficiency of my docket, William Melendez, same thing, only 56, and I was able to get that done in 2.5 weeks. So as far as the efficiency of my docket is concerned, I get my docket done. Now, sometimes we'll have a case, I may give what's known as a Cobb's evaluation. And that is somebody may say, well, you know what, Judge, I'm scheduled to go to trial today, but I want to take a plea. On that day, which is a trial date, if they accept that plea at that time, then that means that the 2 days that were set aside for that trial, those days, you can't put anything on them because they're making that decision right then. One of the things that I have a great rapport with the defendants as well as attorneys. They trust me. If I give a Cobb's evaluation, which is what I believe that I would do as far as a sentence is concerned, many times those people wait until the last minute to take advantage of it and avail themselves of it. Should I be punished for that? I don't think so, because what I'm able to do is to ferret out justice, to make sure that the prosecution gets what they want, and that is incarceration, and that the defendant gets what they want is some level of fairness in between. As far as a bench trial is concerned, many people wave in front of me. I go very quickly. I run through my docket, which means I keep going. So because I average so many witnesses a day during a bench trial or whatever, or I may say, you know what, let's just cut through the meat of it. This is the issue. That's how I'm able to execute my docket. I've always been able to do that. I'm very quick. I'm very fair, as you know, evidenced by the cases that I've done. How do you do 79 witnesses in Bob Bashir in 3 weeks? No one does that.
So, in other words, it sounds like you're saying that you don't need to necessarily work a full 8-hour day.
Well, unfortunately, what it is I may have matters, and if they resolve themselves, okay, by means of a plea. So say, for instance, a person, we allocate 2 or 3 hours for a bench trial. On that date, he says, I want a plea, or the witness doesn't come, okay? Then that means that those 2 or 3 hours cannot be utilized any other way. So what happens is many of my matters resolve themselves in that there may be a witness that, maybe a complaining witness that doesn't show. Maybe a person said, you know what, on this day I want to take a plea. Or, you know, those are the situations. So if you have a jury trial and a person says, well, I've got 8 witnesses opposed to 4 witnesses, 12 witnesses, you set aside 3 days. That's all done on that day if it's resolved by plea. You can't then just call lawyers on the phone and say, can you fill this day in? So you have gaps, okay, of time. Judges who are more efficient, that the defense attorneys trust, that the defendants trust, and prosecutors will have more bench trials, as well as they'll give and accept Cobb's evaluations. So it just depends on that particular judge. I, because I've been doing it for 21 years, have established a rapport with not only the defense, but prosecution, so they trust me. And so therefore, I would say that I'm probably one of the more efficient judges as far as getting my docket is concerned.
So last week, was it a heavy week or a light week for you?
I was in trial every day last week. I was in a jury trial. As a matter of fact, it was a jury trial that ended in a not guilty verdict. On one day, unfortunately, I want to say that it was a Monday, the defense attorney, Gabi Silver, was ill. So we weren't able to go on that particular day due to her illness. Another day, we were scheduled to go to jury trial, and something else came up. But that's typically what happens. We had a jury trial, and then I think I had a waiver trial. I was in trial Friday until 2 o'clock, and then I ended up leaving at 4. Maybe I'm getting the weeks mixed up because I don't have my docket in front of me, but maybe I'm thinking about the week before or last week. But my point being to you is that many of the things that we've set, those matters, resolve themselves. We had set a trial and the witness didn't show. So if the complaining witness doesn't show, then that means you can't go.
But last week there was a trial last week.
I do believe, I can't say I'm not in my docket. If I had privy to my docket, I would be able to say what I was able to do. And that's when I had made sure to say, you know what, as a matter of fact, I'll tell you exactly. Last Tuesday, I didn't come to work at all. Last Wednesday, I did come to work. I left a half a day. I indicated after I completed my docket that I wasn't going to be back for the rest of the day. Thursday, I completed my docket. And as I've indicated, there's no mechanism for taking half a day, because if it were, I would be more than willing to do that.
But isn't there enough work to be done in your courtroom, in this court, to be working full days?
No, absolutely not, because this is the problem.
This is the busiest criminal court in the state.
But here's the problem. After my matters are resolved, I may have 5 matters. If those matters are resolved, I can't call other judges and say, can I do your work? Because those cases belong to them. Just like you're a reporter. You can't do the sports. You're doing investigative stories. So you can't say, well, hey, I'm done my investigative story. Let me go do the sports. Or let me go do celebrity news. You have to do what's given to you. And if you do that and you anticipate that it would be a full day and it doesn't, I can't be held accountable for that. Because I'm working efficiently, I should be punished. As I've indicated, Third Circuit Court never has, and I could not believe it when I contacted Judge Colombo's assistant, Ms. Karen Skillman, as well as the court administrator. There is no mechanism for half a day. I said, well, if I come and I do my docket, and then I say that I was not there that day, that's lying. And it seems if you say that you are there, it's lying. But there's no way that you can say, I took a half a day. And I said, this is ridiculous. There has to be a mechanism for that. But it isn't. And so that's how this court runs. There are judges that get there at 8:30 in the morning, and by noon they're gone. Because you know what is so ironic, is that I made a decision to seek higher court. And it's so amazing to me. In 21 years, this issue's never come up. You did a story on me maybe a couple weeks ago, and now you're doing a story today. And as a matter of fact, Channel 4 is doing the same story. And all I can think of is the filing for Court of Appeals at the end of the month. And it makes me wonder, why is there such an interest in me? I've never been accused of leaving the bench and committing a crime. I've never been accused of leaving the bench and getting drunk. I've never been accused of doing any of those things other than efficiently getting my docket done. And it just amazes me. What is it about me that's so unique? When, as I shared with you earlier off the record, that there are people, which I have videotape and I'd like to just let you see, that have come at work at 8:30 in the morning, and by 1 o'clock, they were at home. But guess what? Their docket was done. Should they be penalized? Absolutely not. As long as the residents are getting their day in court, being able to be heard, that's what's important. And what's amazing to me is that in 21 years that this issue has not come to fruition. Because if it had, I'm quite sure that somebody says, she's not effective, she's doing a terrible job, we need her off the bench. As a matter of fact, in 2014, the voters gave me the highest confidence and I came in #1 in that race. So that says that somebody has confidence in my ability to ferret out justice and to be fair, because I wouldn't have come in #1.
Do you remember this letter?
Oh, yes, I do.
What do you make of that?
Well, let me just say this to you, which is very interesting. I was in a TJ Maxx, and when I was in the TJ Maxx, I was on the phone, and I was irate. You know why? Because I had a defendant who was mentally ill that was supposed to be referred to the forensic department, that was being housed in the Wayne County Jail, which was against the law, and I wanted to know why. And I was outraged.
And no one's
Excuse
saying
me,
you shouldn't
may I
have
finish?
been. You may, but
May
we
I?
only have...
May I?
Okay,
No,
but
may I finish?
the
You
interview
asked
may
a
go
question.
longer.
No,
Yes.
no, you asked a question, I'm going to answer.
All right.
I was concerned about the fact that there could have been this man's liberty. This man was not getting treatment. And when I received a call at TJ Maxx, which I want to say was probably about 4:15 that particular day, I was very upset. And someone complained to my chief judge. Oh, may I say, she was very loud. I was very frightened. I even thank goodness for those black robes. She had a very tight blue dress revealing she was wearing. So amazing to me that whomever was the writer of this letter was more concerned about my attire than anything else. But what's also interesting, sorry I didn't want her calling me. She doesn't even put her address down here. As a matter of fact, this particular street, when you look it up, is not in this particular zip code. Are there people that don't like me? Absolutely. There are people that don't like you, Ross. And guess what? What does prevent them from writing lies? Absolutely nothing.
Here, I let you answer. Here's my question, though. You said you've never had attendance issues brought up before. It was brought up here because the question was raised, why were you at a TJ Maxx in Allen Park
at 4:15
during the workday?
At 4:15.
Court's open till 4:30.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I was gone. Yes, you're right. This was at 4:15.
Okay.
Okay, so very good. Okay.
You remember that?
November 18th. No, I don't.
Okay. So you didn't work this past Tuesday?
I did not.
Okay.
And I took that day off.
Okay. What about a week ago, Thursday, the 29th? Do you remember that day?
I certainly don't. Do you remember that day?
I do.
And what happened on the 29th?
Well, you didn't show up to work.
The whole day?
Yeah.
That's not true. That is absolute. March 29th? What day of the week was that?
Thursday.
Absolutely. I dispute that.
When did you arrive?
I can't recall. Do you know what you were wearing that day?
No, but I know I was at work.
Well, why? But you don't know what you were wearing. You knew you were clothed.
Your Honor.
That wasn't important. You knew you had clothes on. I can't remember every single day, nor am
You'd
I going
remember
to
if you
challenge
came to
then.
work on the 29th,
I
right?
can't say that I did or I don't because I don't have
Well,
my docket. But let me ask you this question. When you talk about me doing my docket, why isn't you say, Judge Evans, you indicated that there are other people, other colleagues that come to work and leave abruptly.
Go ahead and show me those.
Okay, let me
I'm
take a
interested.
look so we can all take a look together. Can the cameraman see that? Well, after I found out, that my attendance was such an issue, can you see that, Mr. Cameraman? Okay. Let's take a look at this because I think that this is important to share. This was, and you said, the court is open from what time? 8:30 to noon. I mean, to 4:30, right? Yep. Okay, this is 2:27 on Friday. Let's see how many cars are not there in that parking lot. These are other judges.
And as you're shooting that,
excuse me.
No, I have a question.
No. I want
Here's my question, Your Honor.
I want the viewers to see.
The viewers are seeing. He's shooting it, Your Honor.
May, look at that.
Okay,
wait a minute. 9.
You've told me I have
10.
until 6:30,
Wait,
so I'm trying
you got
to
longer.
use.
Let's look at all the cars that are not there.
We're shooting it, Your Honor. I would like a copy of that myself.
No.
But
Okay,
here's
very
my
good.
question.
No, I'm not. I want the viewers to see.
They are
that I
seeing
am
it,
not the
Your
only. Now look at this. Let's stop that now because that is too long. And let's take a look at what it is at 4:28. Let's look. We're supposed to be there to 4:30, right? Let's see how many judges are not there. You only see 3 or 4 cars.
Let me know when it's
one of them.
my turn to talk.
Okay, very good. So I want everybody to see that. Do you see that? You see all of those empty stalls?
Here's my
question. Those
question.
empty stalls, wait a minute. You said wait till you finish and I'm going to do that. Those empty stalls represent cars of judges that should have been there, but they were not. Okay? Now, I don't want to belabor the point too much, but let's take a look. This was today at 12:06. Okay? Let's see how many cars are missing. Now, what you'll see, 9 and 10, those stalls are empty. It's noon. Where are those vehicles? Wait a minute. I'm not done. Here we go. 9 and 10 are empty. Please. Now, I'm there. I'm going to tell you where those cars are. I went to their locations and they were at home. Let's take a look. Let's take a look where those vehicles were. Here we go, right?
Respectfully, Your Honor, I'm confused.
Excuse me.
Because I don't know what
Excuse me.
Is your point.
Excuse me. My point being to you is this. You are making a big deal out of me maybe coming a little late, the TJ Maxx incident. What about the people that indicated they were there at 9, left at noon, and were home? Why don't you want to do a story about them?
Your Honor, I'm
You
happy.
know why?
Can I
you know
please?
why?
Can I speak,
you know why?
Sir?
Because for some reason, what I'm doing is more important. Because you're at TJ Maxx at 4:15. What about these people that were at home and they came at 9, they were at home at noon, and they stayed until 4 o'clock and they were supposed to be there the whole day? What about that, Ross?
Your Honor, you're one of those people.
No, I wasn't because my car was there.
Your Honor,
how could I have taken the video?
Your Honor, we have been watching you.
Okay, very good.
We watched you for 5 days.
Okay, wonderful.
You never even came close to showing up on time.
Okay.
Some days you didn't show up at all.
Okay, that's not true.
On,
that is not true, and if I didn't, I took that day off.
So you showed up on the 29th, Thursday.
I can't say whether or not I did or not.
You just said I wasn't right. So you must know if you showed up on the 29th.
When I get to work Thursday, I'm going to let you know. I'm going to pull my docket up, and I'll tell you exactly.
When you get to work on Thursday?
When I got to work I'll tell you exactly.
Okay, this was the night of your campaign fundraiser. You remember that?
Last Thursday?
No, the 29th.
No. Oh, that was a day that I believe that we wanted to take a half a day. I came to work that day.
You sure?
I'm absolutely positive.
What time did you arrive?
I don't know. I'm not at home. I'm at another location. I don't have my docket.
Okay, because we didn't see your car there.
That's fine, because I don't even think that I had my car that day. I'm not sure, but I'm going to double check.
Okay.
I know I was there the 29th.
Okay.
And if I didn't, I took that day off. But I'm going to double check.
Okay. There was no time showing you took the day off.
Okay, very good. But we don't have to immediately do it. If I know I was there, I'm pretty sure I was there the 29th, but I just can't recall. When else?
Okay. Okay, there was that day. There was this Monday, for example. You arrived at 10:30. Does that sound about typical?
This Monday? Yesterday? Today?
Last Monday, excuse me.
I can't say for sure.
Okay. How about that Thursday you showed up at 10, you left at 11:30?
Okay, got my docket done. Docket was done. But what about the judge that came in at 9 and left at 12, not only on Friday, but Monday?
I'd be happy to talk to that judge later, but I'm sitting across from you right now.
But I mean, what about that? If we want fairness for one, we should have fairness for all. If you're going to target one, you need to target all, because
nobody's targeting you, Your Honor. I'm asking you questions about how much time you spend
No, but the issue is, are judges meriting out justice? Are they coming on time?
I'm glad you brought that up.
Are they leaving on time?
I'm glad you brought that up.
What are we doing?
And you pointed out how you were the #1 judge when it came to votes.
Yes.
You are second to the bottom when it
Okay.
comes to how long it takes your cases to resolve themselves.
Okay, and let me talk about that, because I love to. A third of my docket is mentally ill. There was a man that said some very disparaging words, F me, in my courtroom. It took 13 months for his case just to get to trial because he had to be referred for competency. When there's an issue for competency, I don't have the right to go forward. If there's a change in attorney, I can't do that. The average referral for competency in a forensic is 90 days. Many of those cases, we're waiting for DNA to come back from the lab for Michigan State Police, which my prosecutors will say, Judge, they're backlogged. Why? Because Detroit does not have a DNA lab. We don't have a fingerprint lab. And let me say this to you, Ross. Before I rush to judgment and make someone force themselves to go to trial, I don't care if I am late. Because you know what? There was a man that spent 45 years in prison. You know why? Because some judge wanted to push it through. I'm not one of those judges. So if it takes me and I'm last and I make sure that an innocent man doesn't go to prison, then guess what? I'm willing to accept that. But I'm not going to require the prosecution or the defense to go to trial if their client is not competent and or if they don't have the necessary fingerprints or blood work necessary in order to effectively do their case. Because as I tell my jurors, my job is to make sure that justice is served. It's not supposed to be served in 24 hours, in 90 days. Many times these cases don't do that because they need special attention. And what do? I say I'm going to be cost efficient opposed to violating their rights. I'm not going to do that.
No one's asking you to violate their rights.
But I'm telling you, you want to know why? I'm just telling you. Many times it's because of DNA backup, because of competency issues, because of maybe lawyers want to get off. Maybe that's the reason. So you can't just say to me, well, because you're last here doesn't mean that the people in front of you are not getting justice. That's crazy. We're on a night, may I?
Actually didn't say that.
Excuse me, we're on a 90-day track. No, federal court doesn't have that. So they're inefficient. The average case that goes through federal court takes about 18 months to do. Does that mean they're not doing their job? Absolutely not. This is something that the court administrator arbitrarily said that from the time a person is charged until trial, it should be 90 days. It doesn't work like that. In an ideal world, it does. Maybe for those other judges, it does. I don't know.
So I guess I'm just trying to figure.
What I'm faced with are defendants that are not competent, defendants that may request other attorneys, prosecutors that don't have DNA, prosecutors that don't have fingerprints. I'm not going to push it through. But go ahead. Your question is what?
So you're saying these other 16 judges who have somehow done it faster than you are
not
as good as you?
Listen, because you do a report different from Channel 2 doesn't mean that they're better or you're better. You can't speak to someone's ability. All you can do is speak to your own. So I don't know what they're doing in their courtroom.
But when somebody sees that Vonda Evans on any given week shows up late, leaves early, or doesn't show up at all, and then she's got 37 cases above the guidelines, is it really that unreasonable to say, boy, if she was working, I don't know, a full day like the rest of us, maybe she wouldn't have so many cases going on past the guidelines?
But let's take a look. And two of those judges, the #1 judge down here, let's take a look at that. You see the #1 judge down here, Miss Dana Hathaway? That's one of the judges that comes in at 9 and leaves at 12. Guess what? A violation is a violation.
But, okay,
Excuse me,
but
may
again,
I finish? Another person, let's look at it. Judge Shalinsky, which is #3, does the same thing. But the fact of the matter is, they're getting their jobs done. So do you say we're going to give you a pass because you come in and
actually,
you're #1?
they have no cases over the guidelines.
Okay,
you're
and
looking
guess
at
what?
the wrong list.
But guess what? Here's the thing. They're leaving at noon. Does that make it right? Does it make
Here's
it right
the thing.
if we're required?
You're arguing against yourself and for yourself.
No,
First, you're saying, I don't need to work the whole day. Then you're saying, look at these guys, they leave early.
But my question is, why aren't you following them? Why aren't you jumping out of the bushes on them? Does it have anything to do with the fact that I'm running for Court of Appeals and I'm standing up for myself? Why has it become an issue? It wasn't an issue when you would call me, Ross, and ask me different questions. You wasn't an issue when you needed to know information. You called me on my cellular communication.
That's a very good question.
That wasn't an issue then. But all of a sudden, 3 weeks before I'm to file for Court of Appeals, it becomes an issue. But when there are other people who are flagrantly violating the law, why aren't you going after them, Ross? Because surely I don't want to think that you're doing this because it could be racist, because I know you better than that. I know you're not like that. But what I do, when I am concerned about, why is it that you, Channel 7 and Channel 4, have decided to do a story on me about my ability when in 3 weeks I'm going to file my petitions for a higher court? Is that just a coincidence, Ross?
Your Honor, with all due respect, that was really unprofessional. And
well,
you
guess
should not
what?
Have said that.
What else? Well, let me ask you this.
No,
no,
Your
no,
Honor,
let me
I
ask
know
you
you
this,
well,
Ross.
and I
let me
understand
ask
that
you this.
sometimes we have been contentious.
No.
I'm doing my job, and I am asking a public official about how
Ross,
she spends her
let me
hours.
ask you a question.
And for you to insinuate that that is being done because you are African American is so beneath you.
I said that it was not done for that reason because I know you better than that.
I heard you very clearly, Your
Okay,
Honor.
that's what I said, it not done. But let me say this to you. Isn't it ironic that you and Channel 4 are doing a story on me on the same day?
How about that?
Well, let me just say this to you. Am I doing, but here we have.
I assure you, I am not in cahoots with Mara McDonald.
Let me just say this to you. But then we have a judge who leaves the bench, Judge Halloran, goes and performs a sexual act, comes back on a bench, and guess what? He gets a censure. You make it think that what I've done is so salacious, so wrong, when there are other people that are doing the same thing, but you're not
Your
going
Honor,
after them.
I am
if
sitting
you
across
want
from you right now.
transparency, if you want transparency and equality, then why don't you give it to everybody? Would you say that I should have been there earlier? Absolutely, I'm wrong. Guess what? I'll admit that. But guess what I want you to do? I want you, after this interview, to look into their conduct. I want everybody to be held accountable. Because that's the only way we change. There's a culture in that court that when you get done your docket, you can go. It didn't start with Vonda Evans. It's been going on for a very long time. And it's going to continue to go on even after I leave the bench. It's a culture that exists there.
Is it a problem?
Well, guess what? It's not for me, because in those 21 years of all the people that have come before me, not one complaint have I had from the public. The only complaint I have is obviously from the media and my colleagues, which I'm very disappointed.
Well, Judge Colombo says that he actually has talked to you about your attendance through the years.
Has he talked about other people? Absolutely not. There are judges that they call half a day whatever. Do he talk to them? Absolutely not.
Okay.
So why all of a sudden, I'm just curious,
I mean,
why all of a sudden did this become an interest to you when it never has before? You were here 7 years.
Really?
So all of a sudden you decided that it became an issue.
So do you
I'm
think
just curious.
do you think you're the first judge in the history of Detroit television to have a story done about their attendance?
No, but I'm going to say this. I'm the first judge that you know personally that you've never done one about.
And
why?
with all due respect, Your Honor, you'd be dead wrong.
Okay, so
Are you
you've
familiar
done
with,
wait
Are
a
you
minute.
familiar with Ray Lee Chabot in Oakland County?
No, you did a story about me in the 7 years you were here before? You did?
No, you just asked.
No, I
why
said
haven't
about
done,
me.
I've done plenty of stories about you for 7 years.
No, about my attendance. When I
No,
lived
Your
in
Honor,
Durham.
this is my first story about your attendance. I
Right,
don't think there's
and
any
what I'm
question
saying
about
to
that.
you is, isn't it ironic? Isn't it ironic? Like you said, the irony of me being last, of me coming in late. Isn't it ironic that right before you do this story, I have to file for the Court of Appeals, my signatures? Is that irony? Because you know what's ironic to me? When you asked me about letting defendants go, and you came to my home, you never made the issue of attendance when you were in an unmarked van. Why not then, Ross?
Because that's not what that story was about. This story, very clearly, Your Honor, is about your attendance.
But let me ask this.
Yeah.
If you were there and you did the story about me letting people go, why didn't the follow-up the next week you did it about my attendance? You were out there in the van.
I'm sorry that I didn't do that story 7 years ago.
Oh,
I guess I
wonder
gave
why.
you a break.
Oh, really?
You think I was waiting for this opportunity?
You know what,
that I had
Ross?
a grand
Let me just
plan?
say this to you.
Okay.
I
yeah.
have no idea. That would be speculation, and I choose not to do that. I look at facts.
Me too. And the facts are you show up late, you leave early, and some days you don't come
And
in
guess
to work
what?
at
That's
all.
the culture. That is the culture that exists at Third Circuit.
But judges are supposed to be held to the highest standard
Guess
possible.
what?
And your answer is, hey, everybody does
Guess
it.
what? And everybody does. And if I'm accountable, everybody else should be. And news reporting should be transparent and accurate, and it's not always that way. And I'm not saying that about you, but I'm saying that about other people. So what should be and what the reality, ideal and reality, is sometimes far apart.
What time are you showing up tomorrow?
I'm going to be there at 9 o'clock.
Well, is there anything I didn't give you a chance to talk about that you wanted to talk about?
Absolutely not. And I thank you, because I'm going to say this to you, Ross.
Yes.
And with no disrespect to my bench, if we had a mechanism whereby we could take a amount of time. Do you know, I want to just say this to you. Every year we have rollover days. For the last 4 years, I've had at least 5 days that rolled over. I didn't get paid for. I lost them because I was at work. Now, if they had a mechanism by which you can take a half a day, a fourth of a day, that would be wonderful, because then there would be transparency. But should I be held accountable for something that somebody is not doing? Absolutely not. And my only question is this, and I'd like to say this to the voters of the Wayne County and to your viewers. For 21 years, this has never been an issue. I have been accountable, I have been respectful, and I have made sure that the needs of the people of Wayne County have been met. Why I came in #1 in 2014. And you know what? I'm going to continue to do that. I'm glad you did the story. I think that, as you've indicated, there are other people that are violating. We need a bright line rule. This is the time you're here, and this time you're here. You can't do yoga, you can't go eat, you need to be here. And if you violate, there are repercussions.
But Judge Colombo says there already is a rule.
Yeah, well, that's not. There is no mechanism by which that you can take a half a day. Now,
Well, that's true, but that's a different issue.
Okay, now
he's saying that there is a rule that says these are the court hours, 8:30 to 4:30.
Right, exactly. And guess what? There's a culture of non-adherence, just like reporters. I don't know what time you're supposed to be there and leave, but I've seen plenty of reporters that when they get their job done, they're gone. There's just a culture of that. Unfortunately, I wish that every judge would adhere to it. They don't.
Including this judge.
Including me. Does it make us not efficient? Absolutely not. Because the data you showed me, where one of my colleagues came in at 9 and left at noon, she's #1.
She's also doing a different sort of...
But it doesn't make a difference. Can you see where it's qualified? Court hours for arraignment judges opposed to trial court judges.
No, no doubt. But I'm just saying, if we're doing apples...
I wanted to say where it says that.
You want to do apples to apples, this is who your colleagues are.
Okay.
These are trial judges.
My colleagues are everybody that's on here. My colleague is all of these. This is a trial court.
Yeah.
These are arraignment. This is friend of the court.
Correct.
All
Yeah,
32 of those people on there, those are my colleagues.
Correct.
Okay, very good. The fact that you have a distinction doesn't make, those are my colleagues. And the fact that one colleague or two colleagues come in when they want to.
There's no need to yell. There's no need to yell.
Come in when at 9 and they're at home at noon doesn't make it any more right than me coming in at 10 o'clock and leaving when my docket is done. There should be a bright line rule. And you're not going to make me feel that what I've done or the fact that what they're doing, that they're doing any better than I am, because the numbers reflect. I tell you what, ask the voters. Ask the people that come before my court, does Vonda Evans give them a fair chance? Is she fair? Absolutely. I'm not afraid to walk the streets because I know I'm fair. I'm not afraid. I'm out here. People aren't afraid because they come before me and they know that they're going to get justice. Many of those people will go to prison, but they know I'm fair. So let me say this to you. It's not about the numbers with me. It's the quality of justice.
People who work 8 hours a day, who make a lot less money than you.
A lot less.
Who have jobs that aren't nearly as important as this job. Who say, if I got to work 8 hours a day, why in the world shouldn't a judge have to put in at least that much?
Listen, let me say this to you. When your job is done and you've done it right, you should be able to have the ability to leave. Let me tell you something. People are not sitting in any court, and I challenge you, from 9 o'clock to 4:30. No one is doing that. And that's just the way that it is, unfortunately. Is it wrong? Is it right? Listen, people do this all the time. But the point of it is, has somebody in your 7 years called you and said, Judge Evans has not been fair to me because she's not here? Has Judge Evans not done what was proper? Absolutely not. You've never had that call, and you're never going to get it.
Okay.